Welcome to equations of circles in standard form. So here's where the last video ended with the preview of this question. What will happen to the equation if the center is not at the origin? All right, so I have the center labeled. The center is 1, 2. All right, so we'll call that x1 and y1. And I don't know what that other point is. Right? Can't tell where it is, right? Because it's somewhere in that box. So that's just going to be xy. So that's going to be the x2, y2. And we're given that the radius is 3. All right? So let's write the equation for the circle. All right? So we have r equals, we're going to fill in, because we know the radius is just the distance from the center to the edge. So since the radius is a distance, we can use the distance formula. And I don't believe this one is in your notes. Let me just grab it. No, I don't see this one in your notes. All right. So we have r equals, and then for x2, we're going to leave that being an x. And then x1 is minus 1 squared plus. And then y2 is y, and then minus 2 squared. All right, well, maybe we don't want the square root. All right, let's get rid of the square root, because none of our equations of circles have square roots in them. So now we're going to change this from the radius to the equation for the circle, because remember, the equation for a circle is based on the radius, which is just the distance formula. Because that's all a circle is. It's a center point, and all the points are the same distance away. Equation for circle is based on the radius. All right, so we're going to square both sides because we don't want this square root in there. So r squared equals the square root of x minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared, all squared. Square and square root cancel. Oh, let's plug in the r. We know what the r is. The r is 3. Sorry about that. So 3 equals, so now we squared it, so now it's 3 squared. So 3 squared, right, because here's our radius is 3, would be 9 equals, and the square and square root cancel, so we have 9 equals x minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared. Now usually we have the x's and the y's first, right, and then the constant on the other side. Using the symmetric property, we can switch, right? It doesn't matter which side of the equal sign you're in. So I can rewrite this way. X minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 9. And guess what this is? This is the equation for the circle. So x and y are any point on the circle, it doesn't matter. And what we substitute in, so for the x2, y2, that's any point on the circle. And x1 and y1 is the center. And when we square both sides to get rid of the radical, we end up with the equation of the circle. Now, we don't have to go through all these steps all the time. I did that here, so you can see how it was derived. We can simply write the equation of the circle, because we have a formula for that, so we don't have to keep deriving it every single time. And that one, the formula is in your notes. Right? So in your notes, you see center is any point. This is already in your notes. So this part is already there. Right? You're going to fill in the center of the circle and the radius of a circle. So you're going to fill in that part there. All right, so the r is x minus h squared plus y minus, the square root of x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r. The x and y are any point on the circle, so they're going to stay x and y. The hk is specifically the center, and r is the radius, and when we square both sides, we find the standard equation of a circle with radius r and center hk. So in our equation, we have our equation is going to be, just like we saw on the other page, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where hk is the center and r is the radius. Right? So you also have this in your notes, that little box there. So the standard form of an equation of a circle with center at hk and radius r is x minus h all squared plus y minus k all squared equals r squared. So you can write the equation of a circle in the coordinate plane if you simply know its radius and the coordinates of its center. We do not have to derive that again. Right? There are a couple examples that I'm going to go through, and then there's one in your notes. All right, so assume that x, y are, and this is just going over the equation, right? So, and then we're going to write the equation of some circles. Matter of fact, this is the one we just wrote, right? This is the one on the other page. So I'll just fill this one in for us. Assume x, y are the coordinates of a point on the circle. The center of the circle is hk. The radius is r. Then the equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So it's simply the formula for the radius, which is the distance formula, and we square both sides, and lo and behold, we have the equation of a circle. So this one, the center, so here I'm just going to write it out without having to derive it, because we don't have to do that anymore, is 1, 1. Oh no, I guess we didn't do this one. What one did we do? We wrote equation of a circle. We wrote the equation of this circle. Is that the same one? Did I just write down? Nope, it's a different one. All right, so we'll write the equation of this circle. The center is at 1, 1. It's very, very similar. The radius is, well, we can find that pretty easily if I take a horizontal line and not that diagonal line. 1, 2, 3, 4. The radius is 4. So I've got the center, I've got the radius. We're just going to plug in to the formula for a circle. Where we see an h, we're going to plug in the x-coordinate of the circle. X-coordinate in the center. Where we see a k, we're going to plug in the y-coordinate in the center. So the equation of this circle is x minus 1 squared, and x and y stay just what they are, because we want any point on the circle, plus y minus 1 squared equals, and then the radius is 4, so this is 4 squared. We could square the 4, and we should. X minus 1 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 16. This is the equation of the circle, and that's it. So it's actually pretty easy to write the equation of a circle, as long as you know the center and the radius, and you remember the formula. All right? And the equation of a circle is just the distance formula, or Pythagorean theorem. All right, so if the center of the circle is not at the origin, then the equation for the standard form of a circle looks like this. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. The center of the circle is at hk. If you're given the radius, or you can find the radius, here, for instance, the radius is 4. We can see it on the circle here. Right? So the center is at 3, 1. The radius is 4. So we plug in 3 for h, 1 for k, and we plug in 4 for the r. All right, and so the equation for this circle, x minus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 16. Right? Notice in the equation there's a negative. Right? So the negative stays with the equation. I just plug in the 3 and the 1 for h and k. I don't change that negative at all. Right, so we want to write the equation of the circle with the center at 3, negative 3, and a radius of 6. Right? So h is always the x-coordinate of the vertex. So you add x to x. Y is always, k is always the y-coordinate of the vertex. And then there's just radius. All right, so here's our formula. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. We simply substitute the 3, the negative 3, and the 6. So we have x minus 3 squared plus y minus a negative 3. All right, so now when we subtracting a negative number, that gives us a positive. So if we subtract something negative, if we take away something negative, we get something positive. All right, so now this is going to be x minus 3 squared plus y plus 3 squared, and 6 squared is 36. This is the equation of this circle, right, that has a center at 3, negative 3, and a radius of 6. And I do want you to add something to your notes right here. There's plenty of space at the bottom of that first page, and that's this right here. So when you see a negative, it is a positive number. You substituted a positive number. So x minus 3, we see a negative, but the negative, that minus sign, was already in the equation. 3 is a positive number. When you see a positive number, it's really a negative because there was already a negative there, right? Y minus a negative 3. So two negatives, we're subtracting a negative, that makes it a positive. So just add the bottom part to your notes. Go ahead and pause if you like, and you can put it at the bottom of the page. There's plenty of room there. It won't take us very much space at all to do the one problem. And by the way, we're only going to be on the first page of notes after this video. We're not going to move on until the next video. We're going to do a few examples, one of which is in your notes. And then we're going to go the other way. I'll give you the equation, and we'll identify the center and the radius. So we want to write the equation of the circle to the right. The center is at 1, 3. The radius is 2. Right? If you're looking for the radius, don't choose a diagonal line. Choose a horizontal line or a vertical line, right? And then you can count it. Right? So we take the equation of the circle, the formula for the equation of the circle, which is x minus h squared. Notice that x minus h is in parentheses, plus y minus k squared in parentheses equals r squared. We replace the h with a 1, the k with a 3, and the r with a 2, and then we just simplify and we got the equation. So x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared is 2 squared. Just substitute the values of the center in, and then square the 2. So here's our final answer. X minus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. That's how easy it is to write the equation of a circle. Right? If we have the center and the radius, writing the equation of a circle is really easy. Right? This one is in your notes. Right? So we want to write the equation of the circle with the center at negative 4, 0, and a radius of 7.1. Right? So we're going to substitute. The negative 4 is h, the 0 is k, and the 7.1 is r. So we have x minus a negative 4 squared plus, oops, that's a parentheses, y minus 0 squared equals 7.1 squared. Now we have minus a negative, so now that's going to be a plus. Don't leave that as minus a negative, just simplify that. So we have x plus 4 squared. You can leave y minus 0, or y minus 0 is just y. You can just make that y squared. Right? Either way, it'll be fine. And then we're going to square the 7.1. And 7.1 squared is 50.41. A little bit more than 7 squared. And that's it. That's our equation. That's all there was to it. What did that take me? Like 30 seconds? And I was talking the whole time. All right? So that's all there is to it if you have the center and the radius. All right, so let's write the equation to this circle. This one's not in your notes. All right, so the center is at 0, 3. I'll write it down here too. And the radius, you can count here. It tells us that the radius is 7. But you can see we're going from 3 up to 10. So this is 7. We will substitute the values into the equation. So we have x minus, and so this is h and this is k, by the way. h, k. So we have x minus 0 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 7 squared. You don't really need that minus 0, so that's just x squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 49. So if we just have an x squared or just have a y squared, we know that that coordinate was a 0. And if we just have x squared and y squared, then we know this whole center was at 0, 0. Right? And that's all there is to it. So let's take a look at this one. We want to write the equation. I'm just going to double check, and I did move this problem. Oh, this one is in your notes. It's on the second page, and it's in the middle of the page. It used to be in a different spot, and I moved it because I could do this one in this second lesson here. So I ended up moving it, but it couldn't move in your notes because they're already printed. All right, so this is in your notes. It's on the second page. And we're going to write the equation for this circle. All right, so remember our formula. It's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. 2 is the h, negative 9 is the k. Right? So h is x, k is y, and that's your radius. All right, so just plug those in. We got x minus 2 squared plus y minus a negative 9 squared equals the square root of 11 squared. You might think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with the square root of 11 squared? Well, that's actually really, really easy because a square and a square root cancel. So now let's simplify. So this should be x minus 2 squared, nothing to simplify. We'll simplify the minus a negative and make that plus, so y plus 9 squared. And the square root of 11 squared is just 11. The square and the square root cancel. And that's the equation of the circle, right? So right here is our answer. We just plug in the values for the center and the radius. We simplify any double negatives. We square the radius, and we're done. That's it. Okay? So that's on that second page. That's the only one on that page that we're going to do. And I think the only one left are some practice ones that I didn't put in your notes, and we're just going to identify the center and the radius. Just pay attention because I'm going to have you do this as some practice. Right? But it's really easy. All you got to do is remember what the formula is. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. hk is the center and r is the radius. Right? So you take the square root of r squared and you got the radius. In the first one, right, so we have x minus 4. So that means the h is 4. And you have nothing added to y. So 4, 0 is the center. You see, so there's no really any work involved. And then just take the square root of 225, which is 15, and that's the radius. All right, that's all there is to it. All right, let's do number 2. All right, so I'm going to write center first. So center, notice that we have negatives. So if we have negatives, that means this is really x minus, let me give myself a little bit more space. This is really x minus a negative 3 squared. And this is really y minus a negative 2 squared equals 1. Right? So the center, right, we see a plus, it's really negative because there was already a negative there, is going to be negative 3, negative 2 is the center. And then the radius is the square root of 1, which is just 1. Right? 1 times 1 is 1. All right, so let's do number 3 here. All right, so we got negative, so we know it's x minus h, so 6 is the h, and 8 is the k. So the center is 6, 8. The radius is the square root of 15. That doesn't simplify at all. Because the factors of 15 are 3 and 5, Those are prime numbers, and they're not the same prime numbers. So square root of 15 it is. These must be exact. Don't make them a decimal approximation. All right, just if it doesn't simplify, it doesn't simplify. All right, so the center, there's nothing added to x, so the x coordinate is 0. Here, and actually I'm going to fill that in. So this is really x minus 0, right, because we have nothing added to x. And I'm writing that in just because I'm going to have to rewrite the second part. If it's plus, that means it was really y minus a negative 3. Right, so the center is 0, negative 3. And the radius is the square root of 8, but that does simplify. 8 is 4 times 2. 4 is 2 times 2. Right, so now we have like factors. So we circle 1, 2. We cross off 1, 2. Poor last little 2 there. He doesn't have a buddy. He stays in radical prison. So 1, 2 comes out. 1, 2 goes away. There's our radius, 2 square roots of 2. Maybe I should move that up a little bit. It's kind of impinging on the next one. Right. And then the last one, and the last one in this video. Right, so we have, this is x minus 1 squared, that's all good. But we see y plus 1, so that's really y minus a negative 1. Right, so that means that the center is 1, negative 1, and the radius is the square root of 36, or 6. Right, so easy peasy lemon squeezy. The equation of a circle tells you its center. Just remember, there's a negative that already goes in the equation. So if you see a plus, it means minus a negative. And if you see a minus, well, it's just that value. The minus stays behind. And then the radius is also given by the equation of a circle. Just take the square root of that value that the x squared plus y squared part is equal to. Right? And that's all there is to it. Right? In the next video, we're going to be looking at writing equations of circles when you're not given the center and you're not given the radius. How do you find those things so you can write the equation of a circle? Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.